If I can. Are we live? We live? Yeah. Yeah?
We're live.
We're live. All right. Friends. Welcome. Woohoo. Friends, Eric Andres, your guitar sage here. It's October the 20th. We're talking about tone today. We got a lot of things happening. Woo! We're getting rid of some folks. We're getting some folks in. No, we're not. We're just getting rid of some folks. And team got a little bit smaller, but that's good. It's all the quality folks, okay? All the usual suspects. Mike is here. Emmy's here. I'm here. We're good. Josh is here. Yeah. All right, and what we're going to be doing is talking about tone today. So literally, we're doing stuff with the website and a bunch of other stuff. I sat in this seat about 30 seconds ago, and that's how we're running around right here with our heads cut off. But it's good. I'm excited, all right? Welcome, everybody. We're going to have a blast today. We're going to be talking about tone. I got the Dueling Ninjas right here. I got another one right there. If you don't know what the Dueling Ninjas is, oh, you need to. We just got 25 of these in, and we sold out. We're out. So we've got a new batch that's going to be fresh out of the oven. Hopefully this week we've got back orders. Dear Lord. It's happening. I had no idea that you guys would love it that much, but it's a banger. So you're gonna be hearing it today, right here. It's plugged into the old Kemper. We're gonna be talking all about tone today. So overdrives, fuzz, delay, reverb, modulation effects, wah, gain, EQ, you name it. If you got a question, we're gonna jump in, okay? So very Q&A heavy today because it's been a little while since I've been here with you guys. So, but let's talk about it. So from the beginning to the end here, let's go for it. All right. So as you know, there's many different things that create tone. A lot of people will say it's all in the fingers because people love bumper sticker things to say that are absolutely untrue. So is it all in the fingers? Absolutely not. I've proven this a gazillion times. It's not all in the fingers. Now, what we say, the way we present, the things that we say on the instrument, one person might have a bend that's slow and a vibrato that's slow. Then you might have someone who has a quick bend and a fast vibrato. So those sorts of things are expression. We could say that those are in the fingers. But when we're talking about tone like this, or talking about those things, if that was all in the fingers, well, then I wouldn't have to hit these buttons on all these different machines, would I? Right. So much of our tone, in fact, has a lot to do with the guitar. It has so much to do with the pedals and the amps that we're using, and the options are limitless. So because of that, people really get lost in this. Or I should say, they think they're lost. They're really not lost because it's very simple. What do you like? And I really have to come back to that all the time. What kind of tone do you like? Just start there, okay? If you listen to U2 and you love the edge and you love all that jangly, reverby, delayed type stuff, then those are tones that you'll want, that you're going to be drawn to. And so then you would say, well, what does the edge use? Well, he uses lots of Voxes. He uses Strats. He uses Fenders. He uses Gibsons as far as guitars. And then here are the types of effects that he uses. And then you'll get closer and closer to his tone. But a lot of times people confuse tone with the way that one expresses themselves. We're not talking about today the way someone expresses themselves. What we're talking about today is what they're doing, what's happening after they express themselves. How is that tone, how's the sound of their guitar being processed? What's it going through to create the sound that we're hearing? Cool? Okay. So it's the after part. We're not talking about the notes and the chords today. Let's start at the beginning, which is a great place to start. What I have right here is a really clean sounding I've got my Kemper, but technically what we're hearing here is a very clean sounding 59 Bassman. That's what this was profiled after. So that's what it would sound like, very clean, okay? You can hear that there's a little bit of reverb in there. If we didn't have that reverb, it would sound like that, right? Very tight, no expanse to it. That's reverb, okay? That's usually at the end of the chain, so we're gonna start at the beginning. Although I am gonna keep just a little bit of reverb on there because without it, you're really gonna miss it, okay? So let's start at the beginning of the chain, which is where everybody starts, where you typically are going to put your volume pedal and your wah pedal. Those usually go at the very front before your overdrives, filters, and that sort of thing. It doesn't have to. Now, when I say these are rules of thumb, that means players did it this particular way and they were at the top of the heap of what they do. They probably would be a good place for you to start, as opposed to thinking that you know better than them. Not saying you might not experiment some, but so what I do is I've got my wah / volume right in the front, because for me, I've got a wah pedal that if I stomp on it, it turns into a wah, and if I stomp it again, it's basically just a volume pedal. So I keep it at 10 all the time. So boom, it's there. The second I need a wah, I smack it. I smack the toe down. Now I've got a wah. If I just need volume again, I hit it again. You're not going to be using wah and volume at the same time, so it's perfect, right? So that's at the front of my chain. Now, even though I'm using the Kemper today, the effects are stacked up the same way as they are in my office with the foot pedal, with the pedal board, and all my pedal boards. They all look very similar in that the overdrives go in the front, or volume pedal, wah, that sort of thing in the front, then the overdrives, fuzzes, etc. Let's talk about how we might want to stack those while we're talking about the Dueling Ninjas, because tube screamer-esque type sound, OCD, overdrive type sound, this has both of them. That's how I have them set up on my board as well. Corey Congilio was here the other day. We were doing some videos, and he has my #1 pedal, my serial #1. He's got it right now. He's actually messing with it, and he's tearing it up. Sounded great. In a good way, he's tearing it up. And we were talking about cascading pedals, because that's how he comes up with a lot of his unique tones, is by taking this particular overdrive pedal and this particular overdrive pedal and this one, whatever your tastes are, because everybody's different. And what he'll do is he'll turn on this pedal and turn this pedal on as well and cascade them together. Now here's my theory on that. If you're going to cascade pedals, which means you just line them up and you feed one into the next, you don't want to go overboard on this, because you can get a real howly, type of sound from your speaker. It's not what you're going for. You want taste, right? If you want that really majorly overdriven sound, you can do that, but it's probably not what you're going to be using the majority of the time. So my theory on that is the lighter pedals, meaning the ones that aren't as heavy, you know, like for instance, this is my tube screamer type sound. You got that type of sound, right? And then you've got the OCD side, which is okay, a lot more present, a lot more in your face. So you can hear there's quite a bit of difference between the OCD side. Okay, and so again, my theory on that is this. Put the lighter pedals in the front, and then if you say have 2 or 3 different pedals like I do in my office, I have got a spark pedal, I've got a tube screamer, I've got an OCD, and I've got a, what's that other one? Shoot. Sovereign. Is it made by Full Tone? I don't know, but it gets a really great Eddie sound. So I have 4 overdrives. And typically I'm only using 1 at a time, but if I do use 2, and I probably only would use 2 at a time, is I'm gonna take one of the lighter pedals and cascade it into one of my heavier pedals, and that will create a nice, beautiful, very full, sustaining type of tone. So that's something, a fun little trick. And we'll talk about that too, since I have this here. And if any questions that you guys have on it, you can just let me know. Okay, so we got our overdrives, right? Volume, wah, overdrives. Now, the next section, you could technically, in your overdrive section, if you wanted to have, say, like a compressor, that would be a great place to put the compressor as well. That one can wiggle around in the chain a little bit, but in the front where the other tone pedals are, I mean, it's all tone, but technically I call that one tone because of the actual, the way it makes it sound. I like to put those in the front. Then, usually you're going to have modulation type effects, which would be next. Modulation effects would be stuff like a vibrato, you know. You know, there's other types of modulation effects, such as, you know, let's say we were doing like Every Breath You Take, right? Let's see, that's pretty loud there, Mikey, isn't it? I'm sorry if it is. I'll play nice and quiet here. If, let's say we were Andy Summers and we were doing some, let's see, Message in a Bottle, right? Now he's using, there's delay there, there's reverb, there's chorus, lots of different things. So chorus is yet another modulation effect. Other modulation effects would be, say, hang in there. Other modulation effects would be flangers, phasers. Basically what we're doing with modulation effects is we're modulating the sound. We're changing the pitch in some way. Flangers, basically what they do is they take the signal and they split it and they change the pitch a little bit. The name comes from when they would have like 2 reel-to-reels next to each other, which if you're old school like me, you used to record to reel-to-reel instead of digital, and it recorded to tape, and you had the 2 tapes going like this. And what they would do is they would sync these 2 tapes up, and if you leaned into the flange, which is the thing that the tape is on, it's called the flange. If you leaned into that a little bit, like placed your hand on it, slowed it up just a little bit, it would create this type of effect, hence the flanger. Same thing with the chorus, it's very similar, okay? So your modulation effects are gonna go in between there. We can talk detail when you have questions, because there's a million questions that could come from this. This is far from being a thorough examination of tone, it's just the surface, right? After our modulation effects, we're typically going to be using delays. So delays are those things that sound like this. Echo, right? In this case here, I think we have a tape delay there. You can hear it as as the generations, those are called feedback generations, as they go out further, you can hear they deteriorate a little bit. The first one's very clear, and then they start getting a little bit more distorted as they go out, which is very reminiscent of a tape delay, because that's what they sounded like back in the days, that they had, you know, recorded it, and it would record it, and after a while, the generations started becoming less discernible, and now people pay big money to create that old ratty sound, which is kind of cool. Okay, so we've got delays. In this case here, this is emulating a tape delay. I have a tap button here, so I can just sit here and tap it. Like if my song is like 1, 2, 3, 4, I can tap 2, 3, 4, and then Now this is set to something different than what I did there. It's probably set to triplets or what have you, or dotted quarters, so I could do some fun stuff. So for instance, if I went... okay, dotted quarters give you that nice pop, 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 pop sound, right? So you can do different things there with your delays. You can have them go to the quarter note, half note, whole note, triplets, dotted quarter. That's what I like. That's what the edge, and a lot of guitar players have found that the dotted quarter sound or the dotted eighth sound works great, because what it does basically is you can, you know, if it's set to the quarter beat, if it's set to the half note or the whole note, then basically when you play a note, when the typical places where you would play a note, the delay lands on those as well, as opposed to this, the notes are landing when I'm not picking. So if I go, so it's like going pop, 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 back and forth like that. That's what the dotted sound will get you, okay? There's videos on that on YouTube about it. Okay, so after our delay, now why do we, you know, I'm sure you'll have the questions. I'll wait for you to ask the questions. But essentially, someone might say, well, how do I know I need blank? Or how do I know I need this effect? When we're talking about effects, we're not talking about tools for your car. So if you go and you need a quarter-inch socket to change a tire, a flathead screwdriver is not going to do the trick. And in that case, yeah, you need a quarter-inch socket. Make sense? But when we're talking about effects, we're talking about brushes if we're painting. So technically, you could do it with whatever you wanted to do it. We're just painting colors with our instruments here. So understand that there is no, when we're talking about effects, what do I have to have? There's no effects that you have to have. It's just what do you desire? And really, you got to get that into your brain, because otherwise you're going to go out and buy a bunch of gear. You're not going to know how to use it. You're going to be frustrated. And buy gear as you need it. Buy those effects as you need it, as you're going to use it. Maybe as you experience a guitar player who you're like, man, I love that sound. How do I get that jing-jangly sound like he was doing there with the delay? Oh, it's a delay. It's an echo. I'm hearing the echo. Okay, I need to get a delay unit. So then you would go out, scout one out, that sort of thing. But I would not suggest getting a bunch of effects if you don't know what it is that you even want, okay? After that is going to be reverb. Now we typically put the reverb all the way at the end, and then our looper pedal is all the way at the end of that too, and I'll tell you why that is. So typically when we have reverb, reverb sounds something like this. In this case, that's a big reverb. Here's a lighter reverb. Still sounds like we're in a room, as opposed to now no room. Any reverb that you're hearing there is the natural reverb that's happening here in this pretty dead studio, because we have all sorts of baffles and stuff to stop the sound from bouncing around all over the place. But here's the reverb as it's coming from the amp. That's one reverb, and then here's another one. And I like that one because I love to do this whole bit where I play a chord. It just sits there and holds the chord out, and I can have super fun with this. So that's reverb, and what you're hearing there is actually what they call a freeze function that's within my Kemper Profiler. There are other pedals that do similar things to that type of sound that can recreate that just pedal-wise, like this type of pedal-wise, instead of a $2,500 amp. But nonetheless, that's the effect that you're getting there. Okay, after that is typically going to be some sort of noise gate. A noise gate is something that takes the sound out that you don't want to hear. Okay, so for instance, let's say I'm going to crank the gain here. Okay, so right now I have the gain cranked on this guitar. So if I play, get that kind of sound, nice overdriven sound. But what the noise gate does is it says, don't let any sound come through the speaker unless it's louder than blank, whatever this is. Doesn't matter. It matters to you when you're using the pedal, but let's say you have it set on a 3. I'm just making something up. If the sound, right now, the hiss from the pedal or the sound of the lights or anything coming through the chords, if it's under a 3, it's not going to come through the speaker. You're just not going to hear it because it's gated. It's closed, okay? But once it gets above a 3, then you hear it and everything else along with it. But just like everything, when we're talking about sound, one sound masks another sound. So if you're playing guitar and there's a little bit of hiss, you're probably not going to hear that because you're playing over the top of it. So technically the hiss is there, but you're not going to hear it. You're not going to audibly understand it because your guitar is louder than it. Something similar would be as if you walked into a room and one person's talking and they're all the way clear to the end of the room, and you can hear them talking because it's just you and them walking into the room. Walk into the same room later on that night and there's a party of 300 people in there and that person's talking the same volume, but 300 other people are talking as well. You're not going to hear them because of all the other frequencies and all the other people talking. It's going to mask over the sound that is coming through the air to you, and you're just not going to understand it, okay? So similarly, when you're playing, if there's any noise in the line and what have you, it's typically, your playing is going to be louder than the noise, hopefully. Now, with that being said, here's what it sounds like with the gate. Now, if I turn the gate down, you might hear this. I don't know if you can hear that, but I can hear it on my side. It's a little bit noisy, a little bit staticky hiss, right? And I can take that right out with my noise gate. And so most players will have, they're going to have some sort of noise gate, or if they're not using overdrive and what have you, or the overdrive is not cranked, then there's really not too much of a need for it. If you've got good gear, good cables, good power supplies, conditioners and all that stuff, then you're not going to get a lot of that superfluous noise. Fluorescent lights can cause problems, LEDs can cause problems, line noise from other interference can also cause problems there. So you want to limit that as much as possible. And then after you limit, then you are going to use noise gate, okay? If you have any other noise in your line. Okay, and then on the very last bit, we're going to put a looper. Now, why is the looper at the end? The looper's all the way at the end because, and what we mean by a looper is this sort of thing, right? Where we're, so if we have a looper, we can play something over and over and over again, and then we can noodle over the top of it, right? So the reason that we want the looper all the way at the end, and I've got a caveat for this, but 99% of the time when you see a looper pedal, it's at the end of someone's effects chain, because if you play something with, say, this sound, and you want that recorded on your looper, it makes sense that it has to go through the effects first and then be printed or recorded onto the looper. If you had the looper, if this is if this is your vibe pedal, like I got here, making that sound, and I got the looper over here and it's recording into the looper, then it will record that looper. It will record that vibe sound. If the looper is over here in front of the vibe, then it's going to record my guitar going in, and then that looper is going to feed into the vibe. But if I turn the vibe off, then we're not going to hear that anymore, right? And so if I wanted to record, let's say, one guitar that has reverb, then I would print it to the pedal like that, and then I would turn, and then if in the next pass I did not want that reverb, then I would turn the reverb off, play it with the vibe or some other effects that I wanted, record it to the looper, so on and so forth. Does that make sense? So that's just like a kind of a brief overview there. But let's get into some questions that you guys might have, okay? All right, and I'm seeing some of them come through there. All right, friends, if you would, question mark, all caps. That'll help me a lot. Okay, Gerald, chords or fingerstyle? I did actually learn the beginning of Hallelujah. Okay. I don't seem quite like myself today. You okay, bro? I am. I'm really, really good today. It's just I literally a minute before I got online here, I was on the phone with my website folks doing stuff. So yeah, maybe a little befuddled, but I'm good. I'm real happy, very happy. Thank you for noticing. Yeah, don't forget the like button, that's right. Juke is saying, I wish we could see Eric's pedal board. So the one that I have right here is not going to be that impressive because it's more of like a control board. It's a pedal board. I have 6, 12, 13, 14, 14 buttons and 3 actual, boop, boop type pedals on the ground here. But it all controls 1 amp. And then I've got, of course, my Dueling Ninjas pedal because I'm feeding that into it right now because I love it. And I wanted to show it to you guys. But I do have a pedal tour of my last big board. Just search YourGuitarSage pedal tour. I think you could find it by looking at that because I give you a tour of that particular pedal board. Oh, and one of the things I mentioned in there is I had 2 looper pedals, and I mentioned to you there was a caveat there. Why you would want to maybe not put one at the end. You always want to have 1 looper pedal at the end for sure, because that's how you're going to use it 99% of the time. But I had one in the front as well. I had one in the front of the chain. Why? Because what I would do is if I was looking for a particular tone, I'd play, if this would be for maybe a particular song or I was working on tweaking the delay or something so it was just perfect. And so what I would do is I'd play that riff, record it into the first looper that was at the front of the chain. And then I would just let it play, and then I'd get down and put my guitar down, get down to my pedals, tweak some knobs. I told you we'd be tweaking knobs today. I'd get down there, tweak some knobs, and here comes my delay, or here comes my signal, and I'm able to get everything right there as if somebody was playing it for me. Okay, so on my big pedal board, which I've disassembled now, I've made it much smaller and gave a bunch of pedals away to you guys. Then I had, back in the day, I had a looper in the front, looper in the back. And that was a cool little dealio. It worked out really nice. Tone settings for ZZ Top's Lagrange, please. So, Bruce, yeah, so I do talk about that in the video. I have a video on that. And just search YourGuitarSage Lagrange. So here you go. So now I should be using a telly for this, because I'm 99% sure he used a telly for this. But So we're not going to get that same sound out of this. We're not going to have that much reverb. So I'm going to tune that down a little bit. Okay, so it's not going to sound the same on this, right? Again, we're talking about tone. We're talking about all the different variables in it. The guitar is one of the first things. Your pick, or how you're attacking the strings, either with your fingernails, fingertips, pick, that sort of thing. How hard you're hitting them. Are you spanking the strings? Are you lifting them up so that they smack down on the strings? Or are you just plucking them with a pick or your fingertips? All makes a difference, right? Telly, though, is the sound that we would want to start for that sound. Feeding it into, I believe, a Fender amp, which that's what we have here. And then we would want to dirty it up a little bit here. So right now, I'm using the Tube Screamer side of the Dueling Ninjas. Right? So again, that bothers my ears because I'm not using a single coil there. If you did that with a Telly, it's going to sound really close. But, you know, for that tune, there's not a ton of overdrive on it. There's no other effects. There's a little bit of grit, you know, which he's either getting from the amp or from his Dueling Ninja pedal or whatever he was using back in the day. And just a pinch of reverb and the guitar, and that's really it. And the way that he's smacking the strings there, okay? Bruce, check out the video that I have on that, and I go into a little bit more detail in regards to the tone. Someone saying fingerstyle without nails. Yep, you can do it, for sure. Just don't use your fingernails. You'll get some calluses on your right hand as well, or your finger picking hand. But people do it all the time. See Lindsey Buckingham, see Mark Knopfler. There's a bunch of other players too. For the most part, people will use nails because you get a brighter sound from it, more volume, that sort of thing. Any experience with the old Morleys? I have a PFV and have never really mastered the tone. Oh, Scott, it's been years since I've owned a Morley, but yes, I owned lots of those growing up, for sure. Yeah. Talk about the Guinness World Record. Where's that? So this, can you guys see that down there? Yeah. What's that?
You'd have to pick it up.
Yeah, it's kind of this pedal's in the way, or this table's in the way. So this, I won't even get it, but essentially, Rob Scallon did a largest pedal board in the world. Him and Sweetwater did this fun event where they created the largest pedal board in the world. I forgot how many pedals were in it. Do you remember, Mike, off the top of your head?
I don't. There's a ton of videos about it.
Yeah, there's a lot of videos on YouTube about it. I think it was in excess of 300 pedals on it. Well, the fine folks at Sweetwater called me and said, would you like to have a portion of that pedal board? And I said, no, I don't think so. I got enough pedals. I said, yes, please send it to me. Not only would that be so cool that it was in the biggest pedal board in the world, right? But then they send us this little bit here, and then I gave all the pedals away to you guys. So lots of looper pedals. I asked them for the one with all the looper pedals because we were talking about looper pedals at the time, and so I gave a bunch of those away, and it was a lot of fun. Eric, what do you think about processors like Line 6's Helix or individual pedals? Jukas Zor. Okay, so Jukas, I like both. Again, you know, there's no best. There's what's best for you. So at home, I have an HX Stomp. It's literally that big, and it has so many effects in it that I can use all at once. I think like 6 or 8 effects that I can use at once. But here's the deal. Why I don't like those is you have to go drill down into menus. That's why I don't like those. Here are the pros about the multi-effects processors. You get a lot more bang for the buck, meaning you get a lot more effects, a lot more possibilities for a much cheaper price with a multiprocessor. What I don't like about them is you have menus that you got to drill down into. So if you just want to change something, you don't get to do it as quickly as if you just had all the pedals laying on the floor and you tweak a knob. Boom, there we go, we're tweaking knobs again. So that's what I don't like about multiprocessors. However, I own both. So I have big pedal boards, medium pedal boards, and I've got multiprocessors for different situations. In this case here, the Kemper amp is kind of like a mix between both because this thing has so many knobs on the front. As I'm looking at it, it looks like a space machine. I'm not exaggerating when I say that when I look at the front of this thing, there are probably 40 buttons and knobs. 40. I'm just guessing that. So what that means is I can tweak the reverb or the delay or the modulation or my EQ or my gain or my volume or anything very, very quickly as if it was all modular effects, but in fact it's a multiprocessor. So that's what I love about Kemper, one of the many things that I love about Kemper. Line 6, I used to use all their stuff, not knocking them. I think they're a great company. They make some great stuff, and I was with them up until Helix, and then I went over to Kemper. And I loved all my stuff there. What I didn't like about it is the learning curve on it was just like every time something new, it's like I had to dig in. And I just don't like that. I'm a busy man, and I don't need more stuff to do. I need less stuff to do so I can get to the fun stuff like playing and teaching and stuff. Now, with that being said, the individual boxes, individual pedals, if you can buy them and you got the space for them and everything else, I like them because you can reach down, tweak a knob very quickly, you're live, boom, you're done. Okay. The other cool thing about, but they're more expensive, right? The other cool thing about multi-effects processors is once you have the sound that you want, you can save it. You can share it with a friend, that sort of thing. But once it's saved, and you're not gonna, oops, drunk guy at the party steps on your pedal board. It's happened to me, and now he just messed with your knobs, right? Now he's tweaking your knobs, and you don't really want somebody else tweaking your knobs. Tweak your own knobs. Let them. Emmy, what? All right, any tips for getting my looper pedal to loop without stuttering kind of rhythm? RCA, yes, RCA. Emmy may be able to put the URL up, but I did a video with Robbie Calvo on his tips for, I think it was the very first one, Emmy, that dropped, where he talked about the timing of those things. But if we don't put up the URL, you can always search YourGuitarSage Robbie Calvo, because we have a few videos that we put up. We did a great looping course with Robbie that's available on Udemy. A fantastic one. In fact, we're going to be doing a blowout sale for that coming up very soon. I'm going to be talking with Robbie today about that, actually, at 3 o'clock. So get ready, because that's going to be happening, okay? But here's the deal. When you're creating a loop, so let's talk about it real quick. I'm going to erase this, okay? So, woo, we're out in space. Hang on there. Okay, now because we have a little bit of reverb in there, you hear that room? If I just start my looper pedal, and I'm gonna do it the wrong way first. I'm just gonna start it off. That was definitely wrong. Now listen back to this. if you listen to the very front of this loop, you will hear something not sound right. And I'll tell you what it is in a minute, but listen for yourself, okay? I'm gonna play it back, listen. You may not hear it the first time. The second time around, when it comes around to the end, comes back to the beginning, listen to see if something doesn't sound authentic about it. Listen. Okay? Now, what's happening there is the very first note sounds really dry and really boring. Why? Because if I'm creating a loop and we have reverb, we have this little bit of tail of reverb that comes after I play, you can hear it fading out. If my very last note goes, and I cut it off by stopping the recording, then it didn't trail into the beginning of the first part of the phrase. So if it's going to be a perfect loop, and it's like 4 bars, but then we have this little bit of reverb that trails off, that little bit of reverb that trails off needs to come to the front end of this in order for it to sound like a clean loop. So what I would do, if I play this correctly, I would erase it, and I'd play through one time and have that reverb trail and record that reverb trail. So I'd go... Now let's listen. That sounds better, okay? Because now we have that delay trail. Now, what's happening with you if you're having that stuttering kind of rhythm is you're not counting in bars. We talk about that in high detail in that Robbie video. But technically, you want to count 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Stomp. So when you step on that recorder, it's a recorder, so it's a recording button. If you step on it on that downbeat of 1, and then step on the downbeat of 1 on the way out, you will have a perfectly length, 4 bar, 8 bar, 16 bar loop, whatever it is that you put inside there. But if you do 1.5, right? If you hit that a split second later, then you record it a split second later, and it's going to get that stuttering kind of rhythm. So you got to work on your timing, you got to work on counting, and you got to know when to get in and when to get out as far as you're playing. It needs to be right on the beat. Takes some practice for sure, okay? Drew's asking, can you explain how the tap tempo works? Yeah, so the way tap tempo works is right now I can see it's flashing. So if the song is, this speed, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, then I'll tap, 2, 3, 4, tap, 2, 3, 4. Now, depending on what my delay is set at, if it's set to quarter notes, then it would just tap, 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 tap. So if I played, it would be tap, tap, tap type of thing. But I have it set on dotted quarters or dotted eighths. So I'm telling it what the tempo of the song is, and then it's going to, because I said dotted eighths, it will play back dotted eighths. If I said don't play back dotted eighths, do quarter notes, then I would tap that out, and the delay would be to quarter notes. If I tapped it out and I set it to eighth notes, then it would double up. It would be eighth notes. Does that make sense? Okay, Depro, how do I do it on stage? I usually use straight up pedals on stage, but it just depends on the gig. Some gigs you can just use an amp. Other gigs you might use an amp and maybe a delay pedal. Other gigs you may have all your songs plugged into a profiler like I do. For another gig you may just use pedals. It just depends on what the gig is calling for. And again, this is what I say is there is no perfect or best. It's just what's best for you, okay? And I do really mean that. Ah, thank you. Oh, someone's got the Dueling Ninja. Beautiful. Okay. Okay, hey Eric, I have an Amplify amp. Suggestions for using this? It can get quite overwhelming. Sean, yes, it can get overwhelming. So here's the deal, because it's a multi-effects processor. Sean, this is what I would say to do. I've got, I don't know, hundreds of tools in my garage, hundreds of them. I use maybe one a month or something, not very often. A hammer, screwdriver. I try to stay away from that stuff as much as possible. Me personally, just because I'll break it otherwise. So here's the deal. I have all those tools. I could use them if I needed to, but I just use them when I need to. So Sean, what I would suggest with your amplifier is just use what you need or what you desire. So don't worry about all the effects. They're there for you should you need them. Just like I was saying at the beginning of the program here, is that don't use an effects unless you need it. So if you hear Voodoo Child and you're like, how's he getting that sound in the beginning? You find out, oh, he's got a wah, and you're like, ooh, I can hook up a wah to this, and that's all I need is some wah and some overdrive. Cool, got it. Well, don't worry about a vibe pedal and a chorus pedal and delay pedal and all these other things. You're trying to play Voodoo Child, which uses a wah and some overdrive. That's it. So get used to that. Then when you have another song or riff or something like that that calls on another tool, then learn to use that tool then, but don't do it before then. It's overwhelming because you think that you have to like know all that stuff, but the truth is you don't need to know all that stuff. You need to know it when you need to know it. Lagrange. Yeah, okay. Just saw, okay, he was playing an old Dean Explorer. Could be, yeah. Can you address tone in relationship to the amp? So the amp has much to do with your sound. In fact, I've always said that if you took a really, really good guitar, just like the top-notch guitar, and you run it through a really cruddy amp, your sound is not going to be, this is arguably, right? Because like there's so many different parameters, we can't say exactly. But the sound's not going to be as good as if you had a crappy guitar going through a really amazing amp. Because that really amazing amp's just it's gonna resonate, it's gonna be loud, it's gonna be full, that sort of thing. It can do a lot with a cruddy guitar. So your amp has a lot to do with your sound. The speaker, the EQ section, if it has a effects loop or not, the preamp section, the post-amp section, all of it is going to have some sort of consideration in your tone. Can I address tone in the relationship of it? Yeah, it matters. There's really not much more that we can say about that because there's a million different variables. Which rabbit hole do we want to go down, you know? I've got a multi-effects processor. Any advice on starting point? It's got so much built in, it's overwhelming. I've got the Line 6 Firehawk. I know, and I get this all the time from folks about the overwhelming. This is what I'm saying to you. Been playing for 35 years. I've been working with multi-effects processors for probably 34 years. And my first one, God, I forgot what it was, but I mean, I've been using them for forever. And you got to sit there and go, now I got to get to this menu, and you're sitting there kind of messing with this stuff. And if you're not that kind of person, over the years I've become less and less that kind of person. I used to really go down the rabbit hole with that stuff, but I don't like doing it anymore. So again, don't get overwhelmed. Go for what you need, and that's it. Okay, go for what you need. If you see that there's an overdrive and you're like, let me mess with some of those overdrives. Oh, great, got the sound that I'm looking for. Don't be, squirrel. Don't be doing that with all the different effects, okay? Don't be, I need some delay. What do I need to know about, all these different tremolos and all these different reverbs? Save that for another day. There's nothing wrong with doing that. I've done that with all of my processing units where I plug in the headphones and I go, I'm going to try all these different reverbs, and I go right down, and I listen, and because I want to find out what are my favorites, and then I save some favorites and what have you, and I come back to them. But that's fine if you want to do that just to kind of get used to your multi-effects processor. But in the end of the day, if you're not playing, what are you doing, right? Okay. Oh, that's cool. I played with the owners of DoD in the 60s. When they started the company, I went to work for them in 84, and I quit in 94. Huh, very cool. Okay, from Foolish Flock. Hey, if I have a distortion, phaser, delay, chorus, and reverb pedals, which order should they go in, or what way do they usually go? Right, so we mentioned that. So you can break the rules, but this is the normal order. Distortion, overdrive in the front. Phaser and chorus would be in the middle. And the delay would go after the phaser and chorus, and the reverb's at the end. So the way that you listed it is almost perfect. It would go phaser, it would go distortion, phaser, chorus, doesn't matter really which order you use them because you're not going to use them at the same time probably. But those will go kind of in the middle, and then followed by the delay, and then followed by the reverb, okay? Okay. Oh, man. Eric, the site says there's 319 pedals. Is that true? I don't. Well, I know we don't have 319 pedals because if that's what it's.
Talking back to that biggest pedal board in the world thing.
Oh, okay. So like we don't have 319. Yes, okay, 319 pedals. Gotcha, Scott. Thanks, man. Eric, site says 319 pedals. Yeah. Deep Row is saying, what's your favorite one? Now, I know it's going to sound like I just want to sell a pedal, but it's not at all, because I have amazing pedals. But there's a reason why this Dueling Ninjas pedal was just born. There's a reason why it took years of R&D for me to have this thing now in my hands, okay? There's a reason. The Dueling Ninjas pedal is my favorite pedal in regards to overdrive, that sort of thing. And it's available on my website, or at least it is by back order. We've sold out because it's a banger. So there you go. But that is my favorite. Now, if you're talking about an all-in-one pedal, my favorite would be the HX Stomp is great. The one that's even easier than that is like the M5, which is the quality is not as good, but it's easier to use than the HX Stomp. So there you go. Both line 6 pedals, by the way. I look like Bryan Adams, Depro says. You look like Bryan Adams. Could be. I have a PV 110 editions. Got it used in the 80s. The cable plugins crackle. I have to tear it apart to see if I can fix it. Any suggestions? Denise. There's no telling. But when you plug in the cable and it crackles, it's probably the cable. So I would try another cable. Try the cheap stuff first. See if that changes it, because it may not be the cable at all. Sometimes the pots, right, with the knobs, tweak those. So turn the amp off, and what I'll do is I'll put my hand across all of the knobs and just go like this back and forth, because they can get grit in them, or you can do them individually, and you can knock that grit off. If you do it with the sound on, it can be a little noisy and can get very loud and quiet like that sort of thing. But that's what I would do if the pots are crackly, you know. They have cleaners for those as well. But just doing that will clean them up. So try the cable first, Denise. I quit drinking, Eric. It was not me. Is that Dueling Ninja have different knobs? They look smooth. It is, friend. So this is a prototype. This was one of the first prototypes, and I love these knobs, and I would like to get them back, and that may happen, but right now, with the way things are, you know, of course you can't get beautiful knobs. You got to get the plastic ones. So, of course, right? So, yeah, I would like to get those back, but demand on those is we cannot get them. But I would like to get them back because, yes, I love them, right? We're going to come out with some different versions of this for you guys, too, because I just think that's fun. We're going to do it. Any tips for solid state Fender Frontman 15G? Users like playing clean or in distortion? I mean, again, that's completely subjective. What do you want? That's your answer. What do you want? You want distortion? Use the distortion. If you want clean, use clean. not being vague on that. It's just that's where you have to start is what do you want? Because if I like Megadeth, Clean ain't gonna do it for me, right? Hey. Yes. Ken saying, when are the Zoom sessions this month? They are tomorrow. Emails have been sent out. So if you are a UGS member, join us. If you're new to this channel, few things that you can do. You can literally join us for 3 Zoom broadcasts tomorrow. These are only for UGS Pro members, the Unstoppable Guitar System Pro members. If you want to join, you can literally do it today for $1. You can test drive the entire system. Go to YourGuitarSage.com/UGS and you'll look, there's a $1 option that'll literally get you 30 days. Now, if you don't want to pay for anything after that, please get out before 30 days. We don't want to charge you if you don't want to be charged. But please get out before 30 days if you don't want to be in there. We would love to have you though. And thousands of folks are in there. So we would love to have you. But if you do that, then you'll be privy to these live sessions tomorrow. I'm doing 3 of them tomorrow for an hour apiece just for my UGS members. I love those. They're fun. In a split second, you have to kiss me because I love you. Is that for me? I don't know. What's my favorite guitar? You know, there has to be a favorite, right? I think it's my Strat. I really do. I think if I only had one guitar, I think that it would be that guitar. I'm really loving this guitar too. I really love it. But I think maybe it would be the Strat. All right, good stuff, good stuff. Any thoughts on the Honeytone amp? That's an amp I have never owned, the Honeytone amp. Never owned it. So I can't say. All right. All right, good. Dipro, thank you, bud. I look young. That's why girls like guitarists. Maybe. I am 72. Okay. How are we going to program sounds like Van Halen? Man, I mean, check it. Now this is my Kemper, and obviously I'm not using Eddie's guitar here, so it's just not gonna sound quite the same. But you can get there with some good overdrives, with some good programming. It would sound much better with his guitar, of course, and him playing, of course, but we can get close. Drew's saying he has a looper pedal, just kind of getting started. Boy, you can go down a rabbit hole. Indeed, Drew, you need the course that, man, be looking out. If you guys are not, here's the deal. If you guys are not on my email list, you will not get the announcements that are going to be talking about all the massive price drops that we're going to be doing on courses coming out. We've got courses on Udemy. I've got my courses inside of UGS, of course, and we are constantly doing promotions, more so now than even we ever have. So if you're not in the email list, then you won't be able to. You're not going to get those. Otherwise, where can they sign up? You can sign up at YourGuitarSage.com. If you try the dollar offer, you'll be in. If you go to YourGuitarSage.com/30. In fact, if you have not ever gone into the Unstoppable Guitar System, friends, you've got to get into standard. It's absolutely free for you. YourGuitarSage.com/30. Emmy will drop it in the chat there. You got to be in there because it's where the kids are. We have over 500,000 people that have done this already, and we're not stopping anytime soon. Ernest, yeah, thank you. Deoxit, yep. For pot cleaners. Drew, I'm calling my guitar guy today, and I'm going to say to him, I'm going to wring your neck, is what I'm going to say. That is the status of my new guitar. I'm going to wring your neck. Hey, Eric, what's your overall opinion of the Boss compact pedals, stomp boxes? Haven't played them. But I like things that are tiny. Yeah, I like things that get lots of stuff in a tiny, I'm a Swiss Army knife kind of guy. I love that stuff. Eric, do I still have the Darkfire? Might just be me, but I haven't seen it in a while. No. In fact, Dwight won that. Dwight Parks. And he's often in our chat. I don't know if I've seen him here today, but I'm pretty sure that went to Dwight. That's where my Darkfire went. I gave that away. That was a killer guitar, wasn't it? I love it. Yep, Darkfire was a giveaway, indeed. All right. Does everyone see each other in the Zoom lesson? Marine, Mama, yeah, only if you want to. You can turn your camera off, and what we're talking about, friends, is the Unstoppable Guitar System Zoom bits that we're doing, tomorrow at 1, 4, and 7. Do I have that right, Em?
Yes.
I think it's 1, 4, and 7. We're going to be doing those tomorrow. So if you want to turn your camera off, you can. If you don't have to. Guys, are we ready to drop a link to the Jam Tracks channel or no?
We can do it.
Yeah? Okay. Hey, friends, guess what? We've got a new channel. It's called Pro Jam Tracks. That's right. We've been dropping these Pro Jam Tracks on YourGuitarSage just to get a feel from you guys, and you guys seem to really like these. Every time we drop them, I mean, just right out of the gate, they're getting like 3,000, 4,000 views. Blues, rock, reggae, jazz, country, gypsy jazz, Motown, funk, folk, worship, all different sounds. Here's the deal. I've always wanted to have jam tracks that you could listen to and see the chords at the same time and see the chord changes and have suggestions for what to play. I've always wanted this, and I've wanted it for a long time. Tried to do this several times throughout the years. As I do anything that comes into my noggin, I'm like, I'm going to do this, and I put it together, and if it fails, then I come back to it later. But nonetheless, we've been doing this on the YourGuitarSage channel. We have maybe, 25-ish jam tracks on YourGuitarSage. But we don't want those to get in the way of our teaching, and we're going to put that on a whole new channel. So I'm going to have Emmy drop a link for you guys where you can go and you can subscribe. We're going to start dropping stuff there. Is there some stuff live there already, Mike?
No, but there will be tomorrow.
There will be tomorrow. Okay, if you subscribe now, there will be stuff starting tomorrow and definitely this weekend. That's right, Wednesday, Saturday, and Sunday, we're going to be dropping new jam tracks for you. If you guys haven't checked these out already, you've got to. We have 1-chord jam tracks, which are called vamps. We've got 2-chord jam tracks. We've got 3, 4, etc. All those different styles. We're going to have different playlists. It's going to be bonkers, okay? So go subscribe to that if you like jam tracks. If you don't, definitely don't subscribe then, okay? But if you do, get in there. Okay? All right, I'm going to take just a couple more here, and then we're going to head out. Oh, good. Love the jam tracks. Good. Pops, should I run pedals into a cheap Frontman 25 or get a tube amp? If you have the money for a tube amp, get a Blues Junior. Is a great amp. Fantastic amp. Okay. Boy, what's up, homies? What's up, William? Hey, guess what he said? I didn't say it. Boy, what's up, homies? That's how he said it. All right. Good. Subscriber number 7. Good, Subskip. He didn't skip this time. Thank you, Subskip. Alrighty, good. Okay, we've got some kids in there. Does a guy like the Edge get so much delay due to his playing style or tweaking his electronics? Oh, it definitely has to do with his electronics. I mean, if you took delays away from the Edge, this is scientific fact, he would not be able to play guitar. That's just a scientific fact. He does not know how to play guitar. But if you give him a delay, it sounds really cool. Now, I trash on the Edge, but he used to be one of my favorite guitar players. And then I grew up. Oh, stop. No, I'm joking. He's a great guy. I don't know about it. He's a great guy. I don't think he's a great guy. I think he has great tones for YouTube album, or for U2 albums. I think he's fine. Fine player. Very innovative, actually. I'm just not into them anymore. I used to be. They used to be my favorite band. What'd you do, YouTube? U2, you got weird. You got weird. All right, a couple more. Okay. Ah, thank you so much, William. So kind. Okay, friends, a couple things before we go out. Obviously, if you haven't liked this video, please do that. If you like videos on guitar, you know what to do. Subscribe. If you have not already, the number one, listen to me, the number one thing you can do, and this is absolutely free, is get in the Unstoppable Guitar System Standard. We've given this away to so many folks here. It blesses my soul when somebody else gets in there. Take advantage of me. I've literally created this for you for free. YourGuitarSage.com/30. It's there for you. It's not going to come bite you. You've got to go after it. You got to do that one little thing there and enter your information in. Then it's there for you forever for free. It will help, I promise. Go to Pro Jam Tracks on YouTube. Emmy dropped that link for that. Go subscribe there. We got a bunch of new swag. Mike, thank you so much for getting the colors and all that stuff in there last night. Go to YourGuitarSage.com. We're working on the new website, but it's still going right now. We'll be down on Saturday for 24 to 48 hours. We'll be down on Saturday. But you can go there right now. You can get the swag, the hats, back ordered on the Dueling Ninjas pedal. You guys sold out. We sold out of these so quick. You guys are amazing. But get some on back order because the next shipment's coming in. I think this week, maybe next week, latest. But they're coming in. Okay, I think that's it, my friends. Yes, YouTube pissed me off with that Apple push. I think that's what did it. Don't do that, YouTube. YouTube, make me mad. All right, friends, I'm weird. I'm out of here. I'll see you.